In the beginning, WGM was just serving in China, and they were approached by some students who were interested in serving in Africa.
So they approached the board of WGM to say, would you send us to Africa, knowing that they only had work in China. That's the only place they had missionaries.
And the board said, no way, we don't have any money, we don't have any people, we don't have any way to do that.
As the men were leaving, Woodford Taylor caught up with one of them and said, if God is in this, he will provide.
When the men came back the next day, they said, well, this morning when we opened our meeting, we did the reading of the mail that comes to the board. And one of them was a letter from a lawyer in Iowa, and nobody knew this lawyer.
Someone had recently passed away, and in their will left $5,000 to start a work in Africa. And that just so happened to be the exact amount that we needed at the time to start a new ministry.
And so they said, we will open a work in Africa. And so the rest is history.
The early leaders of World Gospel Mission saw the need to go, recognizing that not everyone around the world had heard the message of Jesus and the hope that he brings.
And so I think we see sin in the world playing out, that we're settling for less than God's best in the world.
And Christ fills the void that God put in us, because we are meant to be in relationship with God. We believe firmly that God came to save the whole world, and that doesn't mean just to save people from hell, but to really see this world be transformed into a better place.
God's been writing this story of redeeming and bringing people to himself, and he invites us into that, to be a part of that, to be the hands and feet.
We've always been quite spread out in what we do. We haven't taken one technique, as it were. We try to meet the needs of the people where we go. So it might be for education through an elementary or high school or even university we've started. Might be medical through a hospital. It might be theological education for believers that need to know more about what Christ does in the lives of men and to know their Bible and know how to be trained as pastors. Just a lot of variety of ways that we do that.
World Gospel Mission exists to help people live at the intersection of their passion and God's heart for the world.
We have this history of taking God-sized risks and wanting to follow God-sized vision and dreams, and not just take haphazard and say, look at us, but say, look what God's doing. And so I think that's been formative in who we've been and who we want to continue to be in the future.
What better thing to engage in than the mission that God has called all of us to?